You are now watching Believe. Do you believe?
LG, how you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. I can't complain. Can't complain at all. How about yourself, my guy?
Not bad. I love the shirt. What is that? That's a 2014 vintage, isn't it?
Yeah, you see Revis Island, Vince Wilfork, got my dog Jules on there, Dev. To this day, I don't know why they got Dev looking like that, because Dev a little bit uglier than that. They got V, Grump, Nick, Jules.
The Super Bowl two.
They should have put the tobacco pouch in Jules' mouth.
I wanted to get your take on a couple different things this week. First of all, this is a very big week in the National Football League. Every week is a big week in the National Football League. Let's face it. But first of all, because it's come down to cuts. It comes down to cuts this week. That's one of the biggest things that people are talking about. Obviously, teams have to make their roster adjustments before week one. We all know the stories about guys getting released. We see it on Hard Knocks all the time. And I feel like that's really the popular narrative that people have come to understand what it's like getting cut in the National Football League. From your perspective, from a player's perspective, what's it like getting released, especially at this time of year?
It's only happened to me one time with the Tennessee Titans is when I first got in the league. And I've told this, I take pride in this story because I've told it a few times, and Jeff Coach Fisher kind of seconded, you know what I'm saying? So made it all the way to the last round of cuts. I was told I was going to make the 53-man. And then with injuries and things like that happened, they ended up having to call up a special teams guy. And I was, last man on, first one out. So I ended up getting the cut. And Jeff Fisher, I'll never forget this. He said, we're gonna let you go. You can go home for a day or so. We're gonna bring you back. He was like, hopefully we can get you back. He's like, we tried our best to hide you this preseason because we know what you can do. And he cut me, and I want to say probably a few hours later, whenever it did show up that they released me, the Buccaneers called, playing me off of waivers. He called me in the office and he said, yeah, man, I think I made a huge mistake. I can't believe we lost you this way. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't believe we lost you this way. We know how good of a football player you are. We know how well that you play the game, how good of a person you are. We're happy that we've gotten to know you, but the Buccaneers have claimed you off of waivers, and we sadly have to send you on your way to Tampa. But he's like, man, I feel like this is going to be probably one of my biggest mistakes I've made, as far as keeping and cutting guys. I think this is probably going to be a huge mistake. And ever since then, every time I played him when he was coaching the Rams, any other team, he always revert back to that story. Like, bro, it was a huge mistake for me to cut you. So it's an emotional roller coaster. So I didn't have the Grim Reaper guy come to me. Like, I didn't have the cut guy come to me. Hey, Legarrette, bring your iPad, come talk to Jeff. Jeff called me personally and was like, hey, come up to the office. I want to highlight you. And that was my experience of ever being cut, besides the Pittsburgh Steelers incident, in which I already kind of figured I wanted to be out of that situation, and how it transpired, gave, I wouldn't say the opportunity, but like the opportunity for both of us to part ways mutually. So, and again, it wasn't even the guy that came up to me that way. Mike Tomlin called me and was like, hey, come up, let me holler at you. So I haven't really experienced it, but I have been there when it's happened. I've seen it. It is, it's dead silence in the locker room. It's, you have everybody staring at this person. And especially if it's someone that you have grown close to over the course of camp and over the course of OTAs and stuff like that, it obviously hits a spot in your heart, So, I've seen it. It's never the best. I always rather it happen when we're on an off day. You know what I'm saying? Where they can call guys up to the facility and stuff instead of doing it in front of everyone, because everybody in that locker room has pride, and it's a little bit awkward. And, I'm pretty sure it's embarrassing for some. for that to happen after you made it so far to like the last person to be cut and stuff. You know, you got to go out there and practice the day of and everything. Like, I need my restitution like Shannon Sharp.
now the flip side is, and I've known guys who've gone through this in New England who believe that they've made it through to the final cuts, and then another player becomes available across at a position of need, and they end up getting cut before week 1. I imagine that's also, I know you didn't go through this, but I imagine that can be a little bit awkward as well.
Yes, 100%. You know, the cuts at any point in time, especially the ones that happen during the season where, you know, these guys will get cut, you know, on Monday, and then we'll see them again on Thursday, you know, and they'll get cut on Friday. We'll see them on Monday or, you know, Wednesday at work or whatever. So that's always kind of weird to me. Again, I haven't been able to go through that. That's always been kind of weird to me. But, you know, again, like you said, just getting to the last row or the last segment of cuts or the last, you know, and you're thinking you're safe, you know, and you feel like you've done everything. Like the year that Aaron Dobson the last year that Aaron Dobson was in New England and he got cut, this is me personally. Mm-hmm. He was as healthy as ever. He had went through the entire camp without missing any days. And he probably was one of the better looking receivers that we had that year. But I mean, obviously with him getting hurt in the previous years, you know, that weighs a toll in the decision-making process. Should I keep Aaron Dobson or should I keep the second round pick Aaron Dobson or should I keep the free agent Kimbrell Tompkins? Mm-hmm. You know, it's just the availability thing, you know, and I just think that, you know, those things play a huge factor in it. Like I said, you could have had the best camp that you could have possibly had, but you just get the short end of the stick because you might be the back end man on the roster, you know.
Mm-hmm. I know you were never released by the Patriots, but what do you know about the process? I know the story that I was told was that guys, when they show up at the facility, Bill's assistant, sees them come in. He's at the front door and he sees them come in and says, you know, Bill needs to see you and bring your iPad.
Oh, so Bears be standing in the front door. He does. He does.
And we should also explain to people the player's entrance at Gillette Stadium. His office is right there.
Bill's office is right there.
Yeah. And so he sees everyone that's coming and going.
Right. And that happens. But at the same time, there's a guy, and it's not Bears all the time. It's a guy that comes in and out of the locker room, you know, throughout the day, or, you know, maybe whenever we gotta, you know, it's a wave of cuts. You got to cut it down to this many, then cut it down to this many, then cut it down to this many. You know, and the guys that don't get caught at the front door, or the guys that might come in at 6:00 and, you know, Bears isn't there yet, or 5:30 or whatever. Those guys usually get it, you know, after they go work out, after practice and those such things. But I mean, excuse me, I'm going to just say this. It is never a comfortable situation. Like, it is very, very uncomfortable, like, to witness and, like, see your homie leave and then be like, dang, bro. Like, I want to dap him up and be like, damn, bro, I'm going to holler at you. But at the same time, he probably don't want to hear that shit. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? He probably like, bro, I'm going to hit you whenever I hit you, bro. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Just, you know, people are different. So, you know, that's me personally. I think that I do think there's a better way to do it, man. I think you just got to call guys, man. Maybe you got to get on the phone and, you know, maybe shoot a text, hey, come up to Bill's office instead of going straight to the, you know, whatever, you know what I'm saying? But everyone knows whenever it happens, you immediately know.
Is the only comparison for everyone else getting fired? Because I've been fired before, and I know it feels really shitty when you're fired, when you're let go. Is that the only comparison that you can make, or is there something else out there that you can say, well, you know, getting cut's kind of like this?
So there's a difference between, I guess, being fired and being on, I guess, quote unquote, sick leave. Mm-hmm. So for the guys that get cut every week and come back every week, you know, that's their sick, you know, that's their cut, you know, because technically they are getting cut, but they're getting brought back 3 or 4 days later. You know, so those guys, that's more like a leave of absence or, you know, take a couple sick days type thing. Whereas in the guys in training camp, you know, a lot of those guys probably won't come back. You know, they'll probably get picked up by other teams. So they probably have to, you know, figure it out, you know, a different way to, you know, do what they do. But, you know, that's how you can really compare it to. You can't say that it's fire because you can get called back in 3 days and be like, hey, bro, the roster got a spot open, yada, yada, yada. Whereas in a normal job, you know, if they fire you, they probably not going to call you again.
That's true. We in the media used to call guys who would be released and then brought back. Oh, they just had a case of the Foxborough flu.
Right.
You know?
I've never heard that one.
Yeah, the Foxborough flu, or in the case of guys, and you bring up an excellent point, in the case of guys like Ray Ventrone, cut, return, cut, return, cut. And they understand that that's just part of life in the NFL for them. That, you know, that's just what it's going to be.
Like that too, man. Taquan Underwood, man. So he was my roommate in Tampa. My last year in Tampa when that other guy was the head coach. I shall not name. But he was the head coach. And Taquan Underwood was my roommate, man. I remember him telling me that story about getting cut before the Super Bowl. I remember him telling me that, and that was an extremely weird story, to say the least. Like, can
you share some details? I know it's his story. I know you might want to be cautious about sharing too much, but
yeah. So I know that I'm pretty sure a lot of people know these things, but I know that they called him at like a few hours before the game started. The night before, I think they told him that he was going to play. And let me see, what else can I say without like spilling the? So I don't know if he really cares if I spill the beans or not. He said personally, he at first it was kind of heartbreaking because he didn't know. All right, bro, am I gonna get a ring? If they win or you know? So it was kind of because they didn't explain it to him. You know, we have to cut. We have to let you go for, you know, some odd reason. We got to get this guy up here so that he can play. He's going to obviously play more than you. And so it was confusing, and it happened so fast for him. And he said that you know, he was just wondering like, dang, bro, am I going to get a ring, or am I going to be able to? What's going to happen? You know. And you know, after the game and stuff was over, I want to say like a day or two later, or whatever, and gave him a call and told him, you know, hey man, you know, it's just a numbers thing. Like, there was no hard feelings. Like, you got to understand that this is what, you know. And I don't think there's anything like that has ever happened before or after. So it was weird. You know what I'm saying? Like, guys get cut all the time during the week. Guys get, you know what I'm saying, brought back up. You know, so getting cut, you know, a few hours before the Super Bowl, like you're getting prepared to play it, that is unheard of. You know, so after that, you know, we kind of bonded and was tight. He kind of gave me a little bit more detail about it. And ever since then, every time I see him, the first thing he say, "What's good, roommate?" Good, dog. That's my guy, man. That's my man right there, top one. He has the craziest cut experience I've ever heard.
He's also too, but he was one of those great guys. Cut, brought back. He was great with us in the media. He was always talk, good or bad, win or lose, whatever the case may be. But I love the fact that you guys were able to stay connected after all these years. And he, for me, is one of those guys too. He's come back to camp a couple of times. He hangs out with the McCourties. Obviously a really popular guy who ended up.
Rutgers guys, man, they stick together.
Exactly.
Even though Rutgers is trash. Tell them to come over there and play against us Ducks. We don't belong in the Pac-12. We belong in one of them powerhouse teams, in SEC or ACC or something like that. We got to jump out. I
figure it's only a matter of time before Oregon joins the Big Ten, along with everybody else. So you're going to get your chance to go up against Rutgers probably sooner rather than later.
Be ready for that and make sure they come out to that.
I want to switch gears a little bit here because we again on the cusp of another season. I want to look at a few other league-wide stories. Specifically, I want to profile kind of the AFC East a little bit and take a look at these teams, how they stack up against the Patriots. I also want to ask you kind of a few questions about the Patriots and specifically how they relate to the rest of the division. First of all, let me start with a team that I think everyone agrees is at the very least the division favorite in the Buffalo Bills. Is there any way in your experience Buffalo doesn't at least win the division, and they're on the short list, I'll say this, of Super Bowl contenders, at least at this point?
I'm going to just say this. I feel like personally, you can never say that they are a for sure in win for the division because New England has dominated it for so long. Mm-hmm. For so long. Even pre-Tom era, they dominated. So, but I know the Bills had never had a Josh Allen. They hadn't had a Stephon Diggs. They still don't have a back. They still don't have a solid back. And I think that's pretty key because you can't have Josh Allen having, freaking 200 carries a season, mm-hmm. 10 carries a game. Like, you can't live and die by that because he's not going to make it. So one thing New England is always going to have is a good run game. Last year, we ran them up out the stadium the first game. Second game, not so much. Playoffs, not so much. But still, though, we're gonna run the football. We're gonna be physical. We're gonna be hard nosed. And I just don't say you can ever count New England out of being that AFC East champion. Like, you just can't count them out. They're gonna always be there, regardless. Even though I know the Jets have made some really good moves and they've made some really good additions, offensively and defensively. I just don't think they will have enough, quite enough to be able to compete with the Bills, the Patriots, and the Dolphins.
You need someone to take the heat off of Josh Allen a little bit. There are going to be big games where he's going to run the ball 10 or 15 times. There are going to be games where he's going to drop back 40 or 50 times, but they need to be multiple enough to be able to survive in different conditions. I think they're a great team. And again, I think they're on that short list, man. I think it's right. Them and 4 or 5 other teams who have a legitimate shot at winning the Super Bowl this year. But I feel like they're still a little bit short. There's still a few missing pieces. They need to. Yeah. I always think of when Rodney was added to the Patriots in 2003, he was the final piece. He was the missing piece. He was the veteran. They need one of those guys to be able to mature that locker room just enough to put them over the top.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go as far as saying this: if they had been smart about it, they wouldn't have got a guy like Le'Veon. That's a veteran. That's always been a really, really good back before New York. All around, he can block, he can catch, he can run. He's one of those guys that once you implement the offense to him, he's one of those guys where, okay, I don't got to worry about the running back doing anything wrong, or I don't have to worry about the running back position screwing up or messing up because I got somebody there that I know I can trust. But they stuck with Devin Singletary, which I think is more power to them. He's a all right back. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not any back that's going to be starting in the NFL is a good enough back to be in the NFL. I'm gonna say that. You know what I'm saying? So he's a decent back, but Le'Veon would be in a huge upgrade step position for them if they were to ever consider, making it so that they're not so one-dimensional.
Mm-hmm. What you've seen from the Patriots this preseason, do you feel better, worse, or about the same since camp began?
My feelings are mixed because in the beginning of camp, it didn't look good. Mm-hmm. We weren't running the ball consistently. The run game didn't look that well. But over the course of time, I've started feeling better about it because, I think that when you implement a new system, you have to give it time. You have to give it time. So everybody's learning new things. This zone running scheme is different from the pin pull and the downhill, power type scheme that New England is used to running. These guys have to be like Oregon Duck linemen. They got to be able to run. They got to be able to move. They got to be able to get upfield. They got to be pretty athletic, considering the fact that they lost Shaq. They lost, I forget the other guy's name.
They've had a lot of turnover there. And honestly, a lot of that, in my mind, goes back to Dante Scarnecchia.
Yeah, man. They love Dante. They love
Yeah.
Scar. All the linemen that go there love Scar because he's that good of a coach. I ain't gonna say he's a people person because man, but he can be funny at times.
Mm-hmm.
But man, Scar walk around there, man. He, 5 foot nothing, weighing about 110 pounds soaking wet, and he go out there and he'll get in the pool and he'll swim. He'll get in the little pool that pushes back and he'll swim a mile, He'll get out and, little Scar just walk around, he bow-legged, little Scar just walk around. So, but he has probably he's probably one of the most respected coaches in the building, so he knows his stuff, and he knows how to get the line and stuff ready for, for game time. So obviously Scar not being there is a huge blow.
The conspiracy theory is that he has, when I say he, I mean Bill has Scar and Coach Fears on a bit of a retainer where he can still kind of call him in and say, look, can you take a look at this for me? Can you help me out with this? Can you give me a hand with this? Because look, I mean, they did it with Scar once, they brought him back. And so the idea of having him, return on a semi-regular basis, I would think would make a lot of sense.
It would make a lot of sense, but, unless they made that deal before the retirements, we would have to see how receptive they are to that. But one thing that I do notice is Ivan is going to camp still. Ivan is still going to camp. He's still sitting with the running backs. I don't know what goes on after camp is over, but I'm willing to bet a lot of money that he goes into the building and he sits in the meeting rooms with the backs. He probably don't sit in the offense meeting room, but when it comes to the running back meetings, I'm pretty sure he sits in there. I'm pretty sure he knows the new offense. Like, I'm pretty sure he knows everything, just in case, shoot. Damian might have to call him, one of those guys might have to call him and, probably not feel comfortable with, I guess Joe Judge being the running back coach. I don't know how much Joe Judge knows about playing running back, but,
But the idea of being able to lean on someone like Ivan, or the offensive line being able to lean on someone like Dante, I think there's a lot of benefit there when it comes to, at the very least, some institutional knowledge and some shorthand, from a coaching perspective with Bill. Yeah,
huge. Because again, if you got those guys and if the relationship is still close enough to where, hey, fellas, I'm gonna send you this, take a look at it, or can you come up here and take a look at it? If that'll help them a tremendous amount, because just having Bill or just having Scar and Ivan just be around their respective groups brings a different energy. Just Ivan being around, I'm sure when he comes around there, you probably see the guy's eyes light up like, oh, snap, what's up, Ive? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those things, and then once Ive start coming in there and talking and saying something, they're going to be locked in, Whatever he's saying, they're going to be locked in, and the same goes for the offensive line, man. They love and respect Scar so much that if Bill was to ever be like, hey, Scar, can you come check this out? You know what I'm saying? If they see him, they probably going to go crazy. Oh, snap, Scar, what's up? So, having those guys around and having them close, like, it ain't like they retired and freaking moved to Florida and, they stayed put. You know what I'm saying? Because they know if need be, Bill gonna make, he'll make that call and they won't be far away.
I want to ask the Dolphins fan this question. Have the Dolphins done enough to surpass New England in the AFC East?
They've took some tremendous strides. They have. The addition of Tyreek, along with Jalen Waddle. Tua is going to be really good this year. I know a lot of people don't like him, but I really feel in my heart that Tua is going to be really good this year. He's a winner. He's a winner. That's just point blank. He's a winner. That's just like Burrow is a winner. Lamar Jackson, a winner. You know what I'm saying? Now, just because these guys haven't won Super Bowls don't mean that they're not winners. They coming from like winning programs. They were winning in high school. They're winning in college. So these guys are winners. So eventually the page is going to turn for Tua. Again, with that back situation, I don't think it's respected enough. I think a lot of teams just feel like if we get some really fast and really good receivers, maybe we don't need the back as much if we got a dual threat quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Whereas if you're not a dual threat quarterback, you're going to need your Aaron Joneses, your Austin Eckler's, your Alvin Kamara's. You're going to need those guys. But, being dual threat quarterbacks, they don't need You know, Burrow needs Joe Mixon. You know, but Lamar doesn't need J.K. Dobbins to be. You know, he run the ball 17 times a game anyway. Mahomes don't need Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like they don't. As long as those are guys that could win a game for you, just alone with themselves. Tua, I don't know if he'll eventually get to that, but he will definitely need a back in order for him to reach his full potential because, I mean, the threat of the run game is huge.
You still need it. You still need it. No matter who you are, no matter how good a quarterback you are, you still need that in your back pocket when you need to get those 3 yards in November in Chicago. You're gonna have to lean on this guy. You're gonna have to make it work.
You go to Lambeau Field, you're not going to throw the ball 40 times in December or in November. You're not going to throw the ball 30 times in Lambeau. You're going to run the ball as much as humanly possible and throw it as less as humanly possible. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how you win those kind of games. That's why you need a nice back. You need a nice back, and I just don't think that teams that don't have a nice back, you're just not going to win it all. 2
things about Tua that really still stand out to me from a New England perspective. One, he's the only lefty quarterback that they've faced in God knows how long, maybe since Tim Tebow. And then the other thing is he's never lost to Bill. He's 3-0 against the Patriots over the course of his career. And that speaks to your point about him being a winner, and it's not always the numbers are not always maybe where you want them to be, the personal numbers, but he comes out with a W. And look, quarterback wins, we can debate that. I'm not a huge fan of quarterback wins, but I don't think it's coincidental that he's never lost to Bill.
Right. No, I don't think it's so neither. I think that Tua works really hard. I think, like I said, man, he comes from Alabama. Mm-hmm. You don't get no more NFL ready than that. Like, you know what I'm saying? All these guys, the receivers that come from Alabama, the quarterbacks that come from Bama, the running backs that come from Bama, the linebackers that come from Bama, the safeties, these guys are all NFL-ready guys, and they all get drafted in the first round. Like these are guys that you draft that come ready to play. I don't have to sit you on the bench for 2 years. Mm-hmm. You're ready to play. So they got a couple of those guys. They mixed in Tyreek Hill. They got Gesicki, who was a really underrated tight end in this league. He's really underrated, but he's really good to me. Mm-hmm. You got all those pieces that you can run, and they just think that running back piece is just unnecessary. But they will see slowly whenever they start seeing, okay, well, we only had 40 yards rushing this game. We only had 50 yards rushing this game. We only had, and we threw 3 picks. Mm-hmm. Something ain't adding up. You know what I'm saying?
Got to get that balance. Got to get that balance,
man. You got to get it.
One team that's continuing to work toward that balance, I think, is the New York Jets. And I feel like for the first time since 2008, 2009, there's a reason to be optimistic about the Jets. I'm not getting on board with them as a playoff team this year, but in the wake of their draft, some of the moves they made, it feels like they're starting to build something. They're starting to collect talent for the first time in a long time. The only question for me is, can they keep it together long enough before, people want to blow it up and kind of move on to the next big thing?
Right. I'm with you. They've got some really good pieces. Sauce, Quan, obviously Zach. Mm-hmm. They got some really, really good pieces over there. And I think they're making strides too. I mean, that's the only way that they're going to be able to be competitive in the AFC East or even in the NFL. They got to add the playmaking pieces. They got to add the big fellas. I think that's one thing that you again, that's underrated. You got to add the offensive line, and you got to have guys that's going to protect, your franchise guy. So I think they're making a lot of good moves. I think they're doing a lot of things right. It just ain't going to happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
They probably going to have to take their lumps and bruises for the next couple of years to be able to be competitive with the Dolphins, with the Patriots, with the Bills. They're going to have to take their lumps for a couple of years. Zach Wilson going to have to take his lumps, Sauce, Corn. But I will tell you one thing, a underrated signing for those guys was Quan, because Quan Alexander is a ball player, bro. He is a really good ball player. He came from that Tampa Bay Buccaneers team full of ball players. Him, Levante, Devin, like those, he came from that group of guys that are still balling in Tampa right now. So, he's a great addition to that team, man. You got you a smart linebacker, you got you a big hitter. Speaking of big hits, I just seen him lay somebody out on the Giants the other day.
Giants the other night, yeah.
That's a if you get one of them game, well, that's changed the whole dynamic of your team. Like that changed the dynamic, that changed the approach, and now you're getting some guys that's oh man, instead of being like, hey bro, here we go again. We play for the freaking Jets. You get one of them hits in, and it's like, okay, it's go time. At least we got somebody out here that's trying to get it. So.
Before we wrap up here, I want to have you play the role of proud dad and let me know about the other ball player in the family you got this summer and things coming up for him this fall.
Yeah, man, got my little one, LB Jr. He's had a couple scrimmages in the last few weeks. Saturday was his very first game against probably the top team in Tucson, Arizona. They came out, they played us. They played us pretty decent. They played us well. We came out with a dub. I think LB probably had like 7 or 8 or 9 tackles at safety. So we got to fix some things because he should not have 8 tackles at safety. Mm-hmm. But he'll come down and he a little thing too, man. He ain't no big, huge. You know what I'm saying? You look at me, you like, dang, bro, this son probably huge. Man, he weighs probably 105 pounds. Like, you know what I'm saying? He's skinny. You know what I'm saying? But he came down here. He made about 8 or 9 tackles. He had about 5 or 6 catches, and he had the game-winning touchdown catch with about 20 seconds left in the game. My stud quarterback, who I call Tom Brady Jr., Tom actually sent them a video telling them happy birthday and make sure you listen to your coaches and listen to your parents and get good grades. He sent them that Jackson Scully is his name. Him and LB are best friends, and rightfully so. And so
smart. Pair up with the quarterback. Make friends with the quarterback. That's a good move.
25 seconds left, and I let him get. I run the offense, but I kind of let him get control sometimes. If he sees something, hey, do your thing. You know what I'm saying? We got sequence for everything, and we called the play backside with the trips, and it was nasty split lineup, and he saw something in the defense that I obviously didn't see, and he put LB on a corner route that I do, and LB ran the corner. He was guarded by 3 guys. I don't know why he still threw it, but he still threw it, and LB caught it and scored the touchdown. So it was one of those. No, yeah, like it was one of those.
Very nice. Wait, so you're telling me though you're the offensive play caller for this team?
Yes, sir.
So now we can throw you into the mix here if Joe Judge or Matt Patricia struggles with the New England offense. Let's bring LG back.
Hey man, I don't know if they're gonna like the offense that I implement, but considering the fact that we're on the Patriots roster, we're never gonna be the biggest or the fastest or the strongest. So we gotta go fast in order for us to win. We gotta get them tired. Our team run a no-huddle offense. We no-huddle.
I love it.
15 seconds in between plays. Like, line up and go, line up and go, line up and go. And I wanted to show you my dog touchdown catch, man.
Send it to me. We'll put it at the end of the video. Send it to me and we'll put it at the end of the video.
I'm gonna send it to you. It was a good play, man. I was excited for him. He was juiced up.
We'll tell you what. Keep me updated on that. Let me know some good news off at the very least offensively next week, and we'll talk more. We'll set the stage for the start of the regular season. Patriots, Dolphins, Sunday at 1. Next Sunday at 1, not this Sunday at 1, but next Sunday at 1. We'll have some actual real football to break down in next week's episode. So it's great. I love it. It's great to see you, man. And we'll talk again soon.